Hello everyone, and welcome to the Honda Pro Cycle Atlantic Challenge here at Atlantic Motorsport Park for the 4th race in our Liqui Moly Pro Sport Bike National Championship Series. I'm your series announcer, Frank Wood. Today's race is brought to you by Dalton Timmis Insurance, Honda, Magneti Marelli offered by Mopar, Drift, and Dunlop.
Field here getting underway for a couple of warm-up laps in very strange, changeable conditions. We've had warm practice and qualifying here at Atlantic Motorsport Park on Canada's East Coast, but as we head out here, we've had this weird kind of low fog, breezy drizzle conditions. Very hard for the competitors to judge. Track is wet, but really no standing water and no puddles.
Well, one of the comments that was made, Colin, it was like being in a cloud today. You know, we were surrounded in mist, and of course, this has been a huge challenge for the pro sport bike riders in particular, because they were ready to come out on slick tires, and then all of a sudden we started getting more and more rain, so we had to go into a bit of a delay, and it gave the teams a chance to change to wet tires. Originally it was called an open race, and then we went to full wets on the Dunlops.
Interesting also that our two best top riders in the points right now, Mitch Card went out and did one lap and had a pit lane speed issue with the limiter that kicked in, so they switched bikes and put the rain tires on his spare Yamaha R6. They did one lap of no real value. Thomas Kazaz, our championship leader, didn't get out at all, and of course any little bit of time on a wet track really helps you understand what you're going to face, as I believe we're on board with that was Shaw-Oleary, I think, and we have about 2 turns to go. Tremblay there on his Kawasaki. Fairly good field here, and a number of strong young riders performing well here in qualifying, but those conditions were very warm and very hot and mean absolutely nothing now.
And this is the first time, Colin, that the CSBK has run on a wet weekend in a long time. We haven't seen those rain tires roll out of the Dunlop tent in quite some time.
It's E-Card hanging a leg out, letting Thomas Kazaz, his arch rival, know that they're slowing down to stage on the grid, and it doesn't look like it's raining at this exact split second, but as you can see, very, very low cloud. Track is wet, so full rains will work. Of course, we have a number of races this weekend, and a lot of concern about supply of tires and the opportunity to use the wet track when they haven't had any practice on a wet track.
Fast qualifier was Jacob Shaw-Oleary. He has pole position on the number 210 Pro Cycle sponsored Honda. The shaker, Sebastian Tremblay, second fastest qualifier. He sits in the middle of the row there, rather, and the defending champion, Tommy Casas, on the number 1 bike, third fastest qualifier as we get ready for the start of this 18-lap national championship race. The riders are now looking at the Pro 6 cycle lights. The lights now blinking on. When they go off, the clutches come out. A little bit of move by Tremblay there. He corrected that in a hurry, and Casas gets a beautiful launch on the Parts Canada, and there goes Tremblay. Tremblay has taken the race lead on the Kawasaki. Casas trying the outside line going into turn 1. Will he try a stab down to 2? No, he's going to get into his wheel tracks. And Bilge right on the inside there, just about having contact as they go into turn number 2. Up the hill and into 3.
Bilge has a bit of a reputation as a rain rider. Last year's outstanding rookie pro winner of the award, but he steamed down to the hairpin and really didn't have a plan. We had Kawasaki, Honda, and Yamaha on the front row, and our local hero, Shaw-Oleary, was the guy who didn't get the start. Now we're on board with Shaw-Oleary, that drift camera giving us some fantastic footage. And look at Bilge going up the inside of our champion.
He has taken over second spot there, and I think he was partially responsible for Jacob Shaw-Oleary's poor start. As you saw him come down into 2, forcing those riders offline. It is the shaker right now, Sebastian Tremblay on the Kawasaki, who is in the lead on this lap number 1.
When Tremblay decided to come back and ride the sport bike class.
Bilge to the inside. Beautiful pass.
Yeah, that's 2 passes by Bilge, sort of a miscue in the second corner, then 2 big passes, riding very, very aggressively. And I think people were expecting him to look good in the rain, but maybe not this quickly move to the front.
Well, Tremblay running in second spot. We're on board right now with Jacob Shaw-Oleary. Having a look at Bilge now. That shot was taken from the Pro Cycle control tower at turn number 11 here at Atlantic Motorsport Park. And starting lap number 2 now, we're on board with Jacob Shaw-Oleary once more on that Pro Cycle Honda. And right in behind the shaker, Sebastian Tremblay on the number 24 Kawasaki. Tommy Casas holds on to 4th.
And right now everybody's trying to gauge the traction, see where the best traction is to make those full range range. You can see lots of spray coming up. O'Leary trying to stay out of the majority of the spray coming off the back of Tremblay's Ninja. And here over the crest of the hill, one of Shaw-O'Leary's strongest parts of the track, and he is working Tremblay hard.
Nice out around the outside of turn number 4. That was a very brave pass by Jacob Shaw-O'Leary. Meanwhile, Bilger is getting small up front. He's starting to look very small in the eyes of his competitors. He's getting a really good lead here. Look at him going into 7 now.
Yeah, Kazaz just put the move on Tremblay, and honestly, Tremblay left the door open there. I think he must have gotten in a little bit hot. But at this moment, and we've seen this before, somebody gets the conditions figured out right away, and Bilger looks like he's gone.
Yeah, has he ever gone? He is. We just had a shot of the rain lights too. I wanted to comment on that, Colin. This is the first time, of course, we've had a chance to see those rain lights in action.
Right, and the idea is to help everybody know what's going on in the spray. And you know, we don't have deep water, we don't have a lot of puddling, but you can see those Dunlop tires really pick the water up and spread it around. And ironically, this actually makes the track wetter in the first part until it starts to dry.
Well, Jacob Shaw-O'Leary now getting a breakaway now, and he moves into a solid 2nd spot, and I believe he has designs on Bilger as they make their way up the hill, but Bilger is on a race of his own at this point in time. On board with our champion and looking at the back end of Jacob Shaw-O'Leary's Honda, and now we're looking back from Jacob Shaw-O'Leary at Tommy Kaz's. Here they are headed down into turn 4 once more.
Shaw-O'Leary on the Pro Cycle Honda, and the event is sponsored by Pro Cycle and Honda, so I think our sponsors of this weekend are very happy to see the second of our fast Shaw-O'Learys. His older brother was a serious contender in the same class a few years ago. He's now a professional airline pilot, but right now it looks like this Shaw-O'Leary is the one who's flying, because he's gobbled up that impressive lead of Bilger in basically a lap.
In a hurry. I wonder if Bilger had perhaps a moment that slowed him down a bit, but Jacob Shaw-O'Leary, of course, inspired by his brilliant qualifying effort, and keeping in mind that Jacob was hurt at a regional race here, right here at this racetrack early this year, and this is really his first race of the year.
Yeah, so he did a regional last weekend, or 2 weeks ago, pardon me. He was hurt before the season even started here for the Society of ARL. Last year, his rookie pro season, he missed a big chunk with a hand injury, so he has very limited pro racing experience, and he's been on the podium a couple of times in only 4 or 5 pro weekends.
He is on Bilger. He has shrunk that lead that Bilger enjoyed very early in this race now, and it looks like Jacob Shaw-O'Leary has designs on first place here.
Well, I think at this point, he knows the track the best. He knows the conditions the best. His bike is probably the most dialed in. There's no pressure to get Bilger right away. However, having said that, Bilger is fast in some sections, and you know, Shaw-O'Leary is famous for the way he can carry the speed in some of those bumpy entrances, and you can't really use that ability when the track's this slippery.
Oh, look at a little bit of a moment there for Jacob as he tries to make a pass on Bilger, and he moves up right into his wheel tracks. What a beautiful shot with the drift camera now, and Jacob takes an outside line as they make a run into turn number 8. Can't get the job done on this one. Tommy Cass is, of course, keeping these riders in check, running back in 3rd spot, and then there is some distance back to 4th. Bilger takes away the inside line from Shaw-O'Leary as they come up now up the hill and into turn number 11. They crest the hill onto the straightaway, and again, Jacob getting into a wee bit of a wobble there, Colin.
Yeah, don't forget, most of these bikes have no electronic aids. They're not like our 1000cc motorcycles in the Superbike class with all the TC and all the different programming modes. They're just riding it old school in terms of throttle control and being smooth, and Kazaz is definitely part of this argument, but we need to say, Bilger, 2nd year as a pro, not significant in the point standings. Shaw-O'Leary, 1st national of the season, coming off a concussion. Thomas Kazaz leading the points, reigning champion. So one guy has a lot more on his plate than the other two. And really, if Kazaz is in front of Card, he is in good shape. And what he needs to do is not get tangled up and lose his points lead. And these are the conditions that can yield those really shocking results. And of course, the 2 riders in front of them, neither of them have ever won a national. A pro national, pardon me.
Yeah, no, very good point, very good point. And of course, Tommy Cass's mandate is to keep that number 1 plate on the front of a Yamaha. Yamaha Canada and Parts Canada would both very much like to see him repeat as champion. And Tommy's maturing as a rider now. I think he's pretty smart, and he's riding a championship type race right now.
And we have Kawasaki, Honda, and Yamaha pretty evenly matched.
Good mix, yeah.
In a very broad sense, the Kawasaki is considered maybe the best bike in these conditions because it has a little more mid-range. And of course, that also suits this particular track. But honestly, there's almost nothing to choose between the three of them. Basically all on the same tires, and these new Dunlop Rain tires are working very, very well, and we haven't actually seen dramatic moments the way we expect, or the sort of first turn, first lap pile-up that so often happens when it hasn't rained for a few events.
Taking a ride with Tommy Kaz is now looking at Jacob Shaw-O'Leary running in second spot. Here's a nice shot now of Bilge leading up over that. That's almost a jump there as they come off of turn 3 and head into 4. Now we're working turn number 4, and this is the area of the track, Colin, that you were talking about, where Jacob Shaw-O'Leary is so strong.
And where you pointed out that jump, you know, Trevor Daly and Shaw-O'Leary are the two guys who do jump that section of track, I think, because it's fun.
Lots of fun. Jacob Shaw-Oleary, oh, just a bit of a, but there he's got him. Jacob Shaw-Oleary right to the inside. He came from a wobble coming out of 7 and made the pass going into 8. Nice move.
Yeah, I don't think Bilge left the door open. Bilge's been pretty disciplined in his lines, and he's been protecting it. For a guy who's never led a national before at the pro level, he's been doing very, very well. I know he glanced back, so now it's in his head that his situation, and surrounded by guys who maybe he's not used to riding with. And of course, at this point, you really want to get at least a podium out of this thing.
You put a lot of pressure on yourself doing that, turning around, looking around, and all you see is that big number 1 digit chasing you down. Here we are now having a look at once more at Jacob Shaw-O'Leary, and he seems to have a little bit of a handle on this race at this point in time. Nice downshift going into 2, makes it nice and smooth, and he's getting a wee bit of distance, and now Tommy Casas is starting to pressure Bilge.
On board with our 3rd place bike, our number 1 plated bike, our points leader in the championship, and he is keeping an eye on Bilge, but it looks like it's Shaw-O'Leary who's getting away, although nobody here looks like they're taking any big chances, and it's kind of notable that we haven't seen those scary moments. Like, the pace is picked up, but everybody's settled down and seems to be comfortable with the conditions. And of course, this is an older racetrack. You can see there's you know, lots of pavement changes and bumps and stuff, but we don't have that deep standing water, which in Canadian venues can cause so much trouble. So the conditions in terms of getting the most out of the rain tires without too much terror, these are pretty good conditions.
Yeah, it's not actually raining at this point in time, but the cloud cover is such, and of course there's a mist in the air, so the track is having no opportunity at all to dry. And fortunately, without too much standing water, there's not too much roost coming off the back wheel of the bikes. Here we are looking at the back wheel, for instance, of Bilge, and the vision not too bad, certainly on camera anyways.
No, it's from a rider's point of view, these are pretty good conditions to be riding in the rain. It's not as nerve-wracking as it can be, but still, you get offline, you get out of the wheel tracks of the guy behind, and you can see that sort of dry groove when you're right behind somebody, and getting off that line, going off the part of the track you like the best, and the part that you've been using because you have the most confidence, the passes are harder to come by.
I find myself wondering what happened to Bilge, that he fell off the pace that he enjoyed in the first 2 laps. He really looked like he was off on a run of his own, and that has changed now. Now it looks as though Jacob Shaw-O'Leary's going for a ride.
Well, there's lots of different things, and you know, so often we see somebody clear out right at the start in the rain, and that's the difference, is the first lap or 2, and he seemed to have done that. But I think, you know, the caliber of rider here is high enough that he just didn't get quite far enough away. And you know, in Kazaz's case, I think it's interesting, he didn't do that warm-up right before the race started, so he had to get through those first couple of laps and get his confidence up in terms of the conditions, and that's, you know, now he's fine. You know, his breathing's probably settled down, his pulse isn't too high, but the first couple of laps, and I mean the first couple of turns, there were some near misses, right?
Yeah.
The calamity I was concerned about definitely could have occurred. So you know, it's never a gimme in the rain. And I'm not sure who that is back and forth, but it looks like there's one guy who can still see them.
I think it's Tremblay. I'm pretty sure it's the shaker, Sebastian Tremblay, on the number 24 Kawasaki.
And I would have considered Tremblay definitely a guy who has the style and the smoothness in the rain, and he was right there at the start too. I mean, he was leading. So you know, Tremblay has been strong since he's moved to this class, but he hasn't had that one ride. You know, he's second at our last round at Autodrome Saint-Eustache, and he was fast pretty much throughout from the start at Shannonville, but he doesn't have that kind of breakthrough or maybe even a win that we might anticipate. However, having said that, well, Tremblay is looking to win for the first time. Bilger is looking to win for the first time, but it looks like somebody else who's actually ahead of these guys might be doing that.
It seems to be Jacob Shaw-Oleary. The thing that frightens me about Jacob Shaw-Oleary is the fact that he is going so fast under these conditions, and nobody has had a chance to ride under these conditions this year. I'm hoping that he doesn't get over-enthusiastic and put the thing on its side.
Well, he's the guy with the most experience at this track. I'm sure he has lots of experience in the rain. You know, all of these guys have had serious success as amateurs, or they wouldn't have got to this level. You know, you have to earn your way into the pro ranks. So these are guys who have confidence. We can see the halfway flag on display there, the crossed flags. And at this point, you pretty much know what the bikes are doing, and the track is wet enough that the tires aren't wearing to the degree it's going to be a factor, so you're not worried about that. It's you know, really what we're watching right now is Kazaz trying to figure out, can I pick up some more points, or do I have to settle for third because it's too risky? And he really hasn't taken a stab. We haven't seen him pull out or set up or practice or any of those things you see with the guy trying to make the move. He just seems to be following.
We have a Honda leading this race, a Kawasaki running in second spot, a Yamaha in third, and there's that Kawasaki of the Shaker. Sebastian Tremblay is back up to speed again, and I think he's going to join in this party very shortly. We also have another rider coming up, and I think that's David McKay. Let me get another read on that. Meanwhile, we watch Bilger as he makes his way through turn number 8 right now, and up into what we refer to oft times as the carousel 9 and 10. That'll bring them back up the hill and into turn number 11 and onto the front straightaway. On board once again with Tommy Kazas chasing Bilger, and you can see that the Shaker is closing dramatically now. He has definitely become very much a point of this conversation.
Well, a lap and a half ago, I honestly felt it was wishful thinking that I was hoping Tremblay would get somewhere. But no, he has made up a lot of time, and that in 5th spot, I believe, is a local rider on Monroe, who used to be the top amateur and pro here at this track. I believe that's his bike, but that's not him.
Yeah, it is Ronnie Monroe's bike. That is the number 121. Actually, Ronnie Monroe, of course, ran the number 21 as his national number for a number of years. And
Tremblay's going to get picked off by that number 121.
He is right on him. That is Joe Pulser, the local rider, and Ronnie Monroe, former champion here at Atlantic Motorsport Park and a constant contender in CSBK racing. Pulser's now is moving right on the inside of Tremblay. So again, Kawasaki running in 2nd spot and in 4th and 5th, and looked like a bit of a moment for Tremblay there.
No, I think Pulser was trying to clean his visor after following Tremblay, and of course that's another thing we haven't talked about that. But it's a huge struggle to try and make it so your visor doesn't fog. There's a lot of different ways they do it. They run the pin lock insert so it doesn't fog, but there's a lot of spraying. You tend to crack it a bit, and then the water starts getting up behind on the back of the visor, which is actually much more of a problem. So there's can be an awful lot going on, and I've seen Kazaz poking away at his visor, and it's really risky when you start.
Kazaz to the inside of Bilger going into 1. He's got him. He gathers up 2nd spot now. I wonder, is it possible that Kazaz could chase down O'Leary?
I don't know if that's going to happen, but that was an inside move, and he picked up the line. He didn't drift wide, as we've so often seen on those turn 1 passes. So that was a nice bit of riding from Kazaz without too much drama. Oh, and there we go. Right away, Bilger got past, and he looks back. Thomas, I'm sure, is busy trying to break free to show him he's got the pace, but Bilger's mind seems to be more on not losing another spot than on gaining a spot, and both times he's been passed, he's immediately looked back.
Yeah, looking back, who else is coming? Nobody else at this point in time. However, Pulser is definitely riding very hard on that bike. And of course, these riders riding at their local track with a lot of friends and family around, and they want to rise to the occasion and do well.
Yeah, and that is true of everybody when you're at your home track, but it's a little different here because this track is so difficult, and it's an awful lot of work, and it's very hard to ride consistently. It's easy to make little mistakes and lose your rhythm and lose a lot of lap time without being aware of it. And it's interesting, by the way, Bilger, when he was a rookie pro, his significant race weekend that got him the points that won that Brooklyn Cycle Championship was here. this was the place where he got free of Doug Lawrence.
That's right,
so
I remember
it's
that,
a very
yeah.
unusual situation for a guy who doesn't race here regularly to be so strong here, and now he looks even better in the rain.
And witness the fact that our riders running in second and third spot, I'm talking about Tommy Casas and J.M. Bilget, they were consecutive Brooklyn Cycle Pro Rookie of the Year award winners. Bilget winning it in 17, and Tommy Casas picking it up in 2016.
Yeah, and I think you know, Bilget has not backed off. His pace is good. I think he's trying to hang with Kazaz, and honestly, 3 bike lengths as we start down the roller coaster. Actually, he's closed up.
Has he ever? I love those shots from the Durf cameras. I've commented on a number of times. It adds so much drama to our race coverage here. Tommy Casas now going in through turn number 8. There's Bilget right in behind him, and Pulser and Tremblay have spread out ever so slightly, running in 4th and 5th position. And meanwhile, Jacob Shaw-Oleary is completely out of sight.
Yeah, Shaw-Oleary making for bad television. If you wanted to watch him ride, you don't see him on a CBR 600RR, but he is a little faster than these 4, just enough that he's clear. And you know, a year ago he would have been thrilled to be part of this discussion, but a year later, with almost no riding in the interim because he's been out with a concussion, he showed well in the dry and qualifying, and even better in the wet.
I feel obliged to mention that this weekend has not been overly kind to the O'Leary brothers racing team. They have struggled a lot. They've had that Honda apart a number of times, trying to get it ready for this race, and it sure looks like they've done a darn good job doing it. Man, we've got a 4-rider race starting to mount up here now as Pulser's dragging Tremblay along and joining up with Bilget and Casas.
Look at that. Kazaz has his visor open.
He does.
And that is typically a disastrous choice when it gets to the point where you think that's going to help.
There's Bilget on the move again. He pulls up right alongside Tommy Casas, and Casas will have nothing of it. He keeps the throttle pinned and he takes it into the carousel. Bilget is held back in 3rd spot.
I really thought Bilget was going to make it there, and Kazaz obviously distracted by whatever issues he's struggling with his helmet. So easy to have those issues, but like I said, when you start poking away at them, it's like picking a scab, and it hardly ever works.
Down into corner number 4, or number 11, I should say, and out onto the front straightaway. Tommy Casas over Bilget, and having a look back at Bilget now. We'll see whether he tries again to take 2nd spot away from Tommy Casas. When you get involved in a race like this, there now is the shaker. He moves to the inside of Pulser. No, doesn't quite get it done. Didn't carry enough momentum down into there. Down goes Pulser, right in front of Tremblay, and Tremblay did a brilliant job of avoiding that crashed motorcycle. It was sitting right in the middle of the racetrack, and Tremblay virtually coming to a full stop before he was able to get around.
And in the midst of all this, Kazaz has his visor open again, and Bilget is right on top of him. I don't know what's going on, but here late in the race, it's getting pretty hairball.
Holy lordy. On board once more with Tommy Casas, and looking back, and all of a sudden what we had as a 4-rider race has evaporated into the contest we'd been watching virtually from the get-go between our defending champion and
hold on, did you see the Marshall station back there? I think they were pulling out the red flag.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it looks like it.
Not sure. I haven't seen Tremblay, so I looked like he avoided what happened, but maybe he got in the grass or something.
Well, I was going to comment too. Pulser seemed to be on his way to getting up when last we saw him, and now our emergency measures people at trackside. And there is Jacob Shaw-Oleary. I think he's a little bit overcome with that victory, Colin.
Oh, it's a fantastic moment winning a pro national for the first time, because, you know, basically since you start racing, you're aiming at doing this. He showed very well last year at this event, and also Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. You could argue Canadian Tire Motorsport Park was really a career breakthrough that he ran with the top guys, Card and Tommy, but this time at his home track, an event sponsored by Honda and Pro Cycle, his sponsors.
Yep. Really
big moment, and you know, this is a family that's sort of central to the series in terms of Atlantic Motorsport Park.
Congratulations, sir. I thought you might be off to a race win.
Oh, yes, that is my... When I win the Rookie of the Year last year, I say, okay, I have nobody to win after that, but maybe Shuby, Rainy, we never know. And I really, really love this track. I love the rain. Say, I'm 45, so electronic, I don't know what it is. So under the rain is much, much easier for me. And that was good. Jacob is a little bit too fast, but we will see. We have a race tomorrow. I race after that, and maybe we will see. But that was so cool. Yeah.
Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, your third place finisher, Jean-Marc Pilget. We now make our way over to the other side of the podium here at Atlantic Motorsport Park and acknowledge our national champion. Tommy, that was a very, very good race, an important race, an important points grab. Exactly. It was very tricky conditions for all of us there, and I was gonna plan on going out in slicks, and then last minute we had to throw the reins. I would have been at the back of the pack if I didn't. So no, it was a good race. I got a good start, and I saw Sebastian was on the inside of me, and I said, all right, it's raining. I'm just gonna see what the pace can settle down to, and he got off good, and then Marc Vigier came around, and I was like, awesome, good for him. And then Jake got by me as well, and I just settled in there for a couple laps, get the feel for it, and then. We got good confidence in the rain. The Dunlop tires they're sticking the whole way. It was amazing. But yeah, Jake got up front, and he started pulling away, and then I got by into second, and then my visor started fogging up, and I couldn't see anything. I was trying to put it up, and then he would snap back down on me. But no, it was good. We played a good race, and this is important for the championship. So we're looking forward to Motorsport. And congrats to these guys for such a good race, and especially to Jake being on top of the box for the first time. It feels good. Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, your second place finisher, champion Tommy Kazis. Now to the top of the box. My pleasure to speak to this young man. On the way up to this race win, Jacob, you also recorded the fastest lap of the race. Our congratulations for your race win.
Yeah, thanks so much, Frank. It was a difficult choice going out there today. I went out in the practice on slicks, and we just had no grip. So we came in, the team worked awesome. They got the rain tires put on as fast as they could. The first time I'd been on rains in like 2 years, I think, when I went out there in the race. And I felt a lot of confidence coming into it, and I was in fourth there, and I could tell that I was just a little faster than the pace that everyone was running, and they ended up picking up to the pace where I was at the end, but we just had a little more pace in us at the beginning, so I used that to pull away, and I couldn't have done it without O'Leary Brothers Racing or Pro Cycle behind me. I got to thank my brother the most, because he was over there setting the suspension up for me. Now I can say I've one-upped them since I got a pro national win. So huge thanks to everybody that makes this weekend possible. We had a rough go coming into this season, so this is a huge bonus for us.
Well said. Congratulations again, Jacob. There is your podium, ladies and gentlemen. Trophies up in the air. Jason from Liqui Moly with the presentation. All the riders, by the way, will receiving Liqui Moly product as part of their package of prizes for their finishing positions.
Looking at the point standings with 3 rounds left to go in the 2018 Liqui Moly Championship, and I think we'll see that Thomas Kazaz is looking solid.
Wow, yeah.
Mitch Card with an okay effort, but that's all. Tremblay on his way up from Demray, who's probably our top rookie pro. Rafa McKay, Hornblower, who was not here. Shaw-Oleary in 8th overall with 1 race scored out of 4. Errett, who wasn't here, and Elliot Vera also missed this round at the AMP venue.
Well, that wraps it up for round 4 from Atlantic Motorsport Park. Our next stop will be tomorrow here at Atlantic Motorsport Park for round 5 of the Liqui Moly Pro Sport Bike National Championship. On behalf of Colin Fraser, myself, Frank Wood, and the entire CSBK crew, thanks so much for being with us for this round. We'll see you again tomorrow. Today's race is brought to you by Dalton Timmis Insurance, Honda, Magneti Morelli offered by Mopar, Drift, and Dunlop.